This Till Whittaker fight, man, this one just won't go away. This whole division is very interesting. You got to look at a division, and there's no real rules on how to maneuver your career that are going to hold up over time. I mean, it's really marketing, right? You've got bleeding edge, cutting edge. You always have to go back to the George Foreman grill. That grill failed 3 times. They bring George Foreman in. They rename it the George Foreman grill. It's the exact same cooking apparatus they had out and failed with 3 different times. Something about George, the name George Foreman, it goes on to be one of the most successful ventures in the history of as seen on TV purchases. George's cut alone is rumored at like $200 million or something. But it had failed 3 times. The exact same cooking apparatus had failed 3 times. Now, I only offer you that because there's just a time. There's just a time and a place, and you have to observe the landscape at all times. But if you observe the landscape at 185 pounds, it is very unclear. I mean, I'm going back a little bit, but you take your 2 top candidates, Weidman and Rockhold, and together, one day they just leave the division. You then have Jacare, who comes out and says, I'm leaving the division. You have Yoel Romero, who was given multiple opportunities as always a top choice, but is probably not at 43-year-olds going to be put in there. You got Kelvin Gastelum, who goes out and gets upset by Darren Till. So now all of a sudden you got to look at Till, who is the only meaningful character within the division, within the top 5, who's undefeated in the division. Albeit it's 1-0, he's still undefeated. Then you got Costa sitting on the sidelines as Izzy upset and takes out Whittaker. So now Izzy's on top, waiting for Costa, but who's after that? Then all of a sudden you got this guy named Jack the Joker Hermanson coming out of nowhere, lighting the world on fire. Oh, and by the way, Jared Cannoniers hurt his pec, but he's recovering. So you got a real mess right now. Now we're in a really weird situation. We're back-to-back weeks. We got feature matches within the division. Kelvin versus Jack. Move to this weekend, you got Till versus Whittaker. Well, look, history says if you get the jump on the former champion, you're now the guy to contend for a championship. I don't know that history's going to be wrong. I mean, if Till beats Whittaker, which is a very calculated risk by Till went after this fight. You'll never find an athlete in the history of time who's ever called out Robert Whittaker. Simply hasn't happened. Adesanya even didn't call out Whittaker. He becomes the interim champion and draws into Whittaker. I'm only sharing for you, Whittaker's a tough night out and nobody calls him out. Till saw something here. And I'm not completely convinced that he's seen something stylistically that he likes. I think he's seen an opportunity and he's a competitor who's willing to go for it. But that match is very interesting because if you juxtapose that with what we saw a week ago, which is Jack getting over on Kelvin, Jack is now taken to the meet and he's hedged his own bet, which is he is calling for a title fight against Costa. And where that gets very interesting and very calculated is people will always gravitate towards calling out the champion for good reason. But they will never think a step ahead of, yeah, I'm calling out the champion because I'm going for a championship match. But what if today's champion is no longer the champion by the time I get the match? So if everybody else is pointing their guns at Adesanya, there's a whole pool over there. Let them fight about it. Go jump in the shallow end. You're the only guy calling out Costa. So Jack is going to have that field to himself. Mark my words, as sure as night follows day. If Whittaker beats Till, Whittaker will grab that mic and he will call out Adesanya. If Till beats Whittaker, Till will grab that mic and he will call out Adesanya. One of them may get their way if Adesanya comes out on Costa. All I'm sharing with you is Jack has now put himself at the other end of the pool all by himself. He is the only guy building up any conversation and any interest in a fight with Costa. Now, he's doing that hedging his bet that Costa gets over on Izzy. It's risky. Everything's risky. And I don't know if Jack fully thought this through. I don't know if unintentionally he did something very wise or it's just the way that it went or if this was the strategy that he invoked. But everything in life is a risk. There's a lot of things that have to come through. But if all things remain the same, Costa ends up beating Izzy, Jack is going to be the only one who has any kind of a mandate or a pull or support behind him for that fight. I would argue for you that unless Izzy comes out and demands an immediate rematch, that Jack is going to slide into that. Look, a lot of things can change between now and then. I'm just pointing to you the pieces on the board that have been laid out. Jack is hedging his contendership opportunities and his right to contend and challenge on Costa getting the upset. It's risky, it's unique, it's very smart. It's as good of a play as you can possibly make. Till, Whittaker won't do that. They won't broadly call out the winner of the fight, and they shouldn't. That would be a sucker's move. That title is a very meaningful thing for the athlete. The athlete wants to achieve that. I fully support that. That's a competitive mindset that I respect. The title does not matter in the current landscape to the viewing audience as much as the participants in each contest. The viewing audience wants to see specific people competing with specific people. Every now and then they'll defer back to the rankings, but they'll only defer to the rankings if the ranking supports their argument. Otherwise, they don't give a damn. Till versus Whittaker. Okay. Now, there's so many expressions that exist within the world of the free format fighting systems, and I don't know if a single one of them is true. But there has been a phenomenon around since the 90s that all fans want to see is two guys standing on their feet. If you do anything but stand-up fighting, you are then a boring fighter. Robert Whittaker got into 2 shots tonight. They were maybe the most exciting part of the night, where everybody's hoping he's going to change where this fight is taking place and get it down to the ground. I am not insulting the action within this fight, not in the least. This was 2 fantastic mixed martial artists that just kind of canceled each other out. It's one of those things. Whittaker was doing a little better job of mixing the martial arts. Till was pretty focused, and here's what I'm stand up. I'm going to get you with these, or I'm going to get you with these, but that's all I'm going to do. And any grappling I'm going to do is going to be defensive to keep me back in a fisticuffs contest. I only bring this to you because it is a little bit weird and a little bit annoying that the biggest draw in the history of the sport is George St. Pierre, who did anything but stand and bang. Or you have a fight like this and everybody's complaining. But they will be happy to come out tomorrow morning and tell you all how the only fighter that is worth a damn is one that wants to stand up for you. These things just aren't true. Look, Darren Till needs some work on a couple of things that he simply can't work on. He cannot go in the practice room and prepare. I don't know that I've ever seen Darren Till look better. Darren Till's had his conditioning questioned a number of times. Darren Till is now in the 5-round club. By the way, when I talk about things that Darren just needs to work on, they're just experience of getting in there, guys. This is a brand new weight class for him. He's done 2 middleweight fights ever. One was against the number 1 contender, and the other was against the world champion. I mean, in all fairness, give Till a break. By the way, the final score tonight was 48-47 Whittaker, which means Till's winning rounds. Till's winning moments. I only want to remind you of that because if you look at somebody whose schedule is more difficult than what Till has been through, I mean, Cowboy Cerrone goes into a world title fight with the Chosen One, goes into a Gastelum fight at Madison Square Garden that he flew into town for 36 hours before, goes into a world title 5-round main event with the champ. Till's doing a great job, but he can't get those reps in practice. He's still a very young guy. Till is younger than you guys might think for somebody that's done as much as he's done. All these main events, all these co-main events. Fighting in the Mecca, fighting the former champions, headline fighter. Show was trending around. Kevin and I only sent out a tweet during the show. The show was trending around the world. Number 2 thing in all of America, trending all over the world for 2 hours straight. I only offer you that because Till's on top of the bill. I mean, Till's doing some very heavy lifting. He's a very young guy. Till has the right, same as anybody, to get some reps in. But the reps I'm talking about don't come from the practice room. His coaches are doing a great job. Till is getting better. He's also understanding the weight class. It's also very clear that he's putting his energy into the sport as opposed to the weight cut. He's making all the right decisions. Give him a minute. Then you look at Whittaker. Where does he go from here? My goodness. Whittaker's as close to a perfect fighter as you're going to come across. And you can have an argument in this direction or that direction. I'll tell you right now, ridiculous scenario. Genie pops out of a bottle and tells you, so I hear you want to be a fighter. You can train the rest of your life and be as good as you can be by training the rest of your life. Or right now, I'll give you every skill that Robert Whittaker has. Take that deal. Don't even think I want Robert Whittaker's skills. I mean, the guy can do a little bit of everything. The fact that he can go 5 rounds, and Whittaker really showed us something tonight, because don't forget, every fight that he's had for a period of time has been for a world championship because he brought the championship. His last fight not only was for a world strap, it set a record for live attendance of 57,000 people. Everything I just stated was gone. There was no title. There was nobody in the audience. Different scenario. How's Whittaker going to respond? Perfectly. He went back to his roots. He came through the Ultimate Fighter. He's fought in front of nobody before. He's fought a bit of big fights before, fights he's had to win or else before. He reverted back to that. And that's what the fighters do. That's what the champions do. They find a way to move forward. I think that this was a very special evening. I think that fight was a very special fight, but I think it's going to resonate better over time. If Till is to have any takeaway from a physicality standpoint, it would just be the reminder of what Whittaker did, which was to make sure you're mixing the martial arts. That's a very small critique, but that was a very good fight.